if you've been following this channel for any length of time or just following the whole Brexit process, then you fully well know that Brexit is going to be never ending. And this isn't never ending story, never ending, as in the first one does well, the second one does all right, and then barely anyone ever remembers the third one. Or I think there was a straight to video one that no one even ever knows about. It's not going to be like that. This is going to be with us permanently. Permanently. We are seeing businesses, all types of different industries suffering from Brexit. The Telegraph, of all things, today has ran a story about how the dream of pensioners flying off to the sunny shores of like Spain, the Canary Islands, the Costa del Sol down in France, or southern France around there, that's all gone. Why? Well, this was obvious because, as we said very well before, that if Brexiteers wanted to get rid of freedom of movement, then this was what they would have to get rid of. And yet, a paper that championed Brexit as something good for the country and would be, quote, good for so many people, is now lamenting the fact that so many sun-seeking pensioners can no longer go do that. But again, that's just one of the many ironies of Brexit that we are seeing. However, we have David Frost as now the, quote, chief negotiator between the UK and the EU. And we've said this before, but Frost has been put there not as someone who can help sort things out, but more as an antagonist to try and portray Britain being, sticking up for themselves, even though that is not what is happening. And in fact, what if Frost is currently doing his position? He is committing huge economic damage, not only to the UK, but in today's story, huge economic damage to Northern Ireland. Because one of the things we've, again, often said on this channel, if you want a full picture of Brexit sometimes, you have to go and look at the foreign press. And that is what we are going to do today. So, before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And thank you to all the people who do support the channel those ways. So, on to today's topic. So, today's story comes from the Irish Times, and the title is, "The UK's EU negotiator is damaging Northern Ireland's economy by picking fights." Britain's chief European negotiator has been accused of damaging Northern Ireland's economy by picking fights with Brussels over the Brexit deal that he helped to secure. Once again, Brexit is never going to be never ending because the Brexiteers are never ever going to be satisfied enough. The Brexit they have is never Brexity enough. So David Frost, the London cabinet minister in charge of relations with the EU, is risking inward investment in the region through his attempts to unpick the Northern Ireland Protocol, said the SDLP's Brexit spokesperson Matthew O'Toole. Mr Frost, writing in the Mail on Sunday, said that Britain's new relationship with the EU won't be right until problems arising out of the protocol are being resolved, which his government, brokered with Brussels, are then settled. So even this own deal that he helped to sign and create, he's now not happy with. Once again, this is the problem where it was all done with speed, with no idea, no checks, no nothing, because they wanted to push through Brexit as fast as possible to get it over and done with, when anything, it was far, far but done with. So, the clause which puts a de facto trade border for some goods in the Irish Sea is a huge improvement on some of the previous backstop solutions to prevent a hard border in the island of Ireland. And this fundamental aims are worthy ones, Mr Frost wrote. These included protecting the Good Friday Agreement, keeping borders open, and trade and minimising disruption to everyday life in the north of Ireland. But, he said, the preferred possibility to deliver those aims, while at the same time protecting the EU's single market, but not in the way of the protocol is currently operating. Referring to the small reports of small UK-based suppliers, declining to send products to the north was, quote, too difficult and time-consuming to deal with the paperwork. Mr. Frost said that means less choice for consumers. Yet, there is no evidence that goods not meeting EU standards are getting to the EU single market via Northern Ireland, he said. All the paperwork and checks involved are to deal with the risk that does not exist. The EU takes a very purist view of all this, he wrote. It seems that it wants to treat goods moving to Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK in the same way as the arrival of the Chinese container ship in Rotterdam. Mr. Frost insisted that the British government did not anticipate this when they agreed to the protocol, and it did not, and it makes no sense. You agreed to this. We warned you time and time again, if you sign up to this protocol, this is what it will mean. And yet, we were ignored, as per usual. Mr. Frost insisted that the British government did not make sense, and further warning that this was all making unionism anxious and political stability is now at risk. The EU needs to rapidly find a new solution and approach to this, he said, urging the bloc to stop point scoring and work with us. But Mr. O'Toole, who was also the SDLP's financial spokesperson, said that Mr. Frost's efforts to deflect ownership of the Brexit deal he negotiated is risking inward investment through the North's access to both the Brexit and the British and EU markets under the protocol. Lord Frost seems to see personal or political advantage in continue to pick fights with Brussels, he said. He cares little about the consequences of deflecting blame for the deal that he negotiated, which is clearly pathetic on his own terms, but more importantly, it is destabilising to our politics and damaging to our economy. Mr. O'Toole said that Frost should be focused on making his deal work. His deal work. This means resolving the practical issues and pragmatically, such as via the UK-EU alignment on veterinary standards, as well as ensuring that we benefit from the potential economic opportunity offered by dual market access on the Northern Ireland Protocol, he said. It is truly depressing, but unsurprising, that those who have shouted loudest for the hardest Brexit, whether Lord Frost or Edwin Potts, have been the quickest to run away from any of its consequences. Not surprising at all. We've said this right from the very beginning. Those who shout loudest for Brexit, the second we talk about this is going to be a problem, how do you intend to solve this? Or this is going to be a problem, what's your solution? Or you say this is going to be easy, how is it going to be easy when this and this exist? The answers were either A, complete magical thinking and the old, tried and true line of, you've just got to believe, and somehow the border in the Irish Sea just doesn't exist. That's not how it works. And yet, we've now seen our chief negotiator, who signed the very deal, is now not happy with it, and that he's doing damage and wants to try and negotiate it to his own terms. Well, once again, the EU is going to turn around and say, no. This goes all the way back to the beginning arguments that we saw from many of the Brexiteers who were insisting that they could cherry pick the best parts of being in the single market while getting rid of the parts that they did not like. And once again, you won't be surprised that this comes down to the typical argument of what we had in the Conservative Party of the Brexiteers versus those that were anti-Brexit. It all comes down to regulations, because once again, they want to get rid of as much regulations in this country as they can. And this is what, surprise, surprise, they are doing. And this is complete political point scoring. It's political theatre. And it risks damaging so much. But as you can see, at the moment, the UK has absolutely zero intention of trying to make the Northern Ireland Protocol work, which is absolutely ridiculous, because we are the ones who created it, signed up to it, and said that we would follow it. And yet now, it's causing all these problems. Well, these were exact problems that we said would happen, and yet when we asked, how do you intend to solve these problems? It was either You've just got to believe in Brexit somehow, or it's just Project Fear. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link as well, called Buy Me a Coffee. And as always, thank you to all those people who do support the channel that way. And as always, we'll see you all next time.